I'm Nancy Donkers. I would probably call myself a feminist, environmentalist, social worker and a community worker. She was born in 1911, which was a time that I guess a lot of her peers probably wouldn't have done much, once they went to school. But her dad actually was a great believer in education. So she and her sister both got educated and they became teachers. And then both of them became nurses. And then Second World War came about. And both of them joined the army and became army nurses. And I guess then they travelled. They were taken to Egypt, where the Germans were coming down. And then later, when the Japanese were coming across, they withdrew all of the troops and the nurses and put them in New Guinea. So I guess she was a strong woman from that whole experience, but she gathered together a whole range of her peers who were my aunties. And a lot of them weren't married later on, and they became my auntie whoever and did really significant things. But then Mum, when she came back, she was in her late 30s, and she got married, had 3 children in 3 years, and the thing that she was very, very keen on was education. And myself and my sister and my brother, those the 3 of us, there was no doubt for her that we'd go to uni and do whatever. We would never stay where she was. She married a farmer, a dairy farmer, so cow cockies. So she didn't want us to stay there. She wanted us to go somewhere else. So she was a wonderful woman, and she always encouraged us. Mr. Cherry was ancient. I don't know how old he was, but I thought he was ancient. Very old man. And he was very clear that women had no place in the laboratory. And he ran a refraction laboratory clinic or laboratory. And we were in our final year of physics, and I was the only one in our particular group, that was the only woman. And he didn't like that at all. I should not have been there, and I had no name. So all of the men were called by their surnames. I was nameless, and I was put behind a curtain because I might distract all of those guys from their jobs. So I did all my stuff back behind, and so it continued. So by the time the assessment came, I was really going to prove to Cherry, Mr. Cherry, that I could be as good as anyone. I had the support of all my peers in the year. And my results were really quite good. And so when he gathered together all of them and gave out all of our things, finally I had a name. I was Stockdale, which is my maiden name. And he so grudgingly gave me my thing and said, "There you are, Stockdale, I will pass you. That will give you," and it had required quite a lot of measurement and cutting in doing this particular experiment. And he said, "That will give you experience in cutting your wedding dress." And I was just going, oh my God. I was quite shocked because I was only about 19, 20. I think they were fabulous. I think it had been going on, I think their Acclaim the Night started in Melbourne in around the late 70s. I remember hanging on to a little candle with about 2 or 3 people, women, for one of the first ones. That wasn't one of the big ones. But here in Geelong, I think that those very big ones were really powerful and brought together many parts of the community all together. And so I think I think it really empowered many, many women who had experienced lots of trauma, lots of violence in their life, that they were okay. Because when you experience trauma or violence in your life, one of the notions is that you're not okay. And so to join together with other women and to have some understanding about why has that occurred to you, that it's not to do with the fact that something's wrong with me, which is usually how women experience it, but it is much of a broader systemic societal issue, I think is so empowering. And to know that there's all these other women who can support each other through that, and men who can support women through that, I think was really, really powerful. I think it's hard for a group of women in the community to hold a group like that. And so I think that it was almost understandable that it would filter away. Myself and one of my daughters and some of both my daughters are social workers. Both my daughters are feminist, environmentalists, whatever. So one of them, and with a group of her friends, with myself, got together numbers of years ago and decided that we would try and activate it up a bit more. I think group together. But, you know, when you've got a women's group together and a lot of women can say, I can't do this, I don't know what to do, or I've got no ideas. But once you get the group, there's magic in a group, that the ideas that come about, the energy, it's about a collective energy, I believe, and that what women can do together that you can't necessarily consider if you were there by yourself. And I think that's a really amazing thing. Well, Johnson Park's one of them, but the Women's Place of Peace, we actually created. The Women's Place of Peace is down by the Barwon River, and it began when we had a little bit of a place down there that we created in the 1990s from rape crisis, with a commemoration stone that was to commemorate women who were survivors of violence and the courage they had. And so that was done many years ago, and it wasn't until maybe about 6 or 7 years ago that when some of the women who were part of that with me putting that together had died, or mostly had passed away, that I realised that I went back to find it and realised that it was just a rock now hidden away that nobody could find. So a group of us through the Reclaim the Night got together and put it into a different place, and we got great big, a circle of enormous rocks. We've got 3 areas that are planted, and we've got mosaics and a peace pole. So we've created this area, which is the Women's Place of Peace, down by the Barwon River, that anyone can go to, and I see people coming and going there all the time. But it's a place I really like to go to and to sit and reflect, and it's a beautiful place.